I'm joined in the studio by a man who is in charge of the region's biggest private equity firm. He's Arif Naqvi, the chief executive of Abroad Capital. Arif, thank you so much for joining us. It does seem you haven't announced a deal in many months. You were expecting 2010 to be very deal-rich. What has stopped you?
Nothing stopped us. There are many months left in 2010. I think in the private equity industry, every transaction has its own dynamic and takes its time to mature. So I'm very optimistic that we continue to be on course to do some new transactions in 2010.
How optimistic are you about Dubai? We just heard from the Sheikh there saying, well, he thinks Dubai is back.
Yeah, well, it's not just that it's back. I think that Dubai's future is inextricably tied up to the future of the region. And the region is tied up to oil, and I think that that story is a very particularly good one. And Dubai is a gateway to the region, and the infrastructure is amazing. So I think what it's already built is going to stand it in good stead for the next 50-odd years. So Dubai is definitely back, and I think investor sentiment is back about not just Dubai, but the region as a whole.
Now, you have 3 months left until the end of the year. You say you're going to announce deals.
Yes.
What kind of deals are we looking at? I mean, what kind of opportunities do you see out there?
I think the region is defined still by the shortage of infrastructure capacity and the fact that infrastructure transactions are still very much in the fore, and the opportunity remains very high to look at transactions in that space as it does in logistics and healthcare and so on. So I continue to be optimistic that the region, on the back of some fairly fundamental growth prospects, is going to show up some good transactions in the future.
Any specific countries where you see the most opportunity in infrastructure or healthcare?
We look at the region as a whole. The MENASA region is a big one, from Morocco to India, and is very integrated. But we consider and continue to consider that countries like Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Egypt are the fundamental bedrocks on which the region is built, and we're looking at transactions there.
Now, in November, you were saying that this will be a significant year because actually banks are still reluctant to lend. Do you see this trend continuing?
I think banks haven't yet worked their way out of their own collective thinking in terms of what is it that they really want to do. Are they in a state where they need to reassess their real estate portfolios? Are they in a state where they need more capital? I don't think that that picture has been fully played out yet.
You know, we talk about the risk of a double-dip recession practically every 2 days. Are you optimistic that we're not going to see a double dip? Because if we do, the Middle East will be hit very hard.
Yes, I also happen to think that, you know, at the end of the day, the world is being a little bit more optimistic than the fundamental signs sort of should be. And, you know, if you look at today's announcement that the European central banks have slowed down or will not do any further gold sales, to me that's another indication that caution is still there in the market, and I believe that it's not about double dip, but the fundamental signs that gave rise to the recession to start with are still with us.
But how is your business going? I mean, do you see any investors actually pulling out of, you know, some investments, or saying, well, this is not the right time for me to be in private equity?
I think everybody is feeling pain. I think everybody, whether it's in the West, whether it's in our region, is feeling pain and is feeling a little bit cautious. And I think it is good to take a long, hard, deep look at portfolios, at investment strategies. And I think no one is very clear about what next year is going to hold, or indeed the coming couple of years are going to sort of unfold as. So it's not about investors feeling pain. I think people are just feeling caution.
And this will continue? I mean, how much funds do you have to invest, and has that declined over the last couple of months?
No, I don't think it's declined. We have sufficient funds that are available in our portfolio to invest in our current and immediate needs. But I do think that the reassessment that investors are going through right now is going to result in a shortage of fundraising in the next year, without question.
What's your biggest fear, though? I mean, you're talking about, you know, cautiously optimistic, or even a lot of caution, which is what we've seen in the market. So much risk aversion, so much investors saying, well, I really want to see a clear picture before I decide where to put my money.
Yes.
I mean, this can go on for years.
I think so. I think it can, sadly. But from my perspective, I think that there isn't a lack of political clarity yet on how these issues are being dealt with. I think the crisis has, to a large extent, been cleared up, in the sense that, you know, there isn't an impending disaster on our hands. There isn't another Greece around the corner, I hope. But having said that, I think that, you know, caution is the name of the game.
Give me a little bit of a flavor of how many deals you'll do in the next 3 months. I'm intrigued.
Hopefully we should do two transactions within the next 3 months of a sizable nature in the context of the Middle East, yes.
And anything that would scupper that?
I'm sorry?
Anything that would scupper that? Is there a fear? Are you afraid that
I think we're fairly well advanced. I think it will happen.
Thank you so much, Arif Naqvi there,
Thank you,
the CEO of Abroad Capital.